Hey, if you're a golf equipment junkie and you love to go behind the scenes and get access to things that nobody else gets access to, this video is going to be for you. Last week, I had an opportunity to work at the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club and spend a little bit of time with Dill. Now, Dill is the lead PGA Tour rep for Titleist Vokey Design Wedges, which makes him one of the busiest guys out on the PGA Tour, week in and week out. This guy's probably got about 100 to 150 wedges in play just about every week, and he is making short game tools for players like Justin Thomas, Will Zalatoris, Jordan Spieth, all the Titleist staff, all the wedges that you're going to find in their bags. Aaron is pretty much the guy who is making them inside the Titleist PGA Tour van that goes to events week in and week out. Aaron gave me a very rare behind-the-scenes look at his workspace. We rummaged through the drawers. We took a look at very cool different wedge designs, different wedge grinds, things that he keeps stashed away. He also showed me how he stamps wedges and also gave me an in-depth description about how he grinds out certain aspects of wedges to make very, very handmade prototype pieces of equipment for the game's best players. Hey, this is a very different kind of video than the stuff that you've seen on my channel so far, but it's a little taste of some of the things that I'm hoping to bring you going forward. One little word, my audio conked out halfway through. Now, the video quality is great. Aaron's audio is great. He's the one that does all the talking, but every once in a while, you're going to hear lightly in the background somebody asking a question. That's me. My microphone's conked out. I don't think it's a big deal. Wait until you see this.
So vans over the years have changed a lot. When I first started, they weren't nearly this big. They weren't nearly this pretty. You know, they were more about function and getting the job done. And you know, now we can kind of combine both. So right here, you can kind of see how I've got things labeled. I'm going to just kind of show you SM9 since this is our main line here. We carry 2 finishes on the van every single week. Tour Chrome and Raw.
So these are organized by loft, or how are these organized within the individual sides?
They start with loft and bounce. So 46 in Raw, and then in Chrome 48, 50, 5012, 5208, 5212, 5410, 5412, and you'll see as we go down. I'm really sort of a Type A personality guy, and I love my I like my stuff to be organized and clean. I like it exactly. I sometimes want to challenge myself. I want to blindfold myself to reach into a drawer and see if I can pull something out. Yeah. I haven't tried it yet, but I might one of these days. Okay. Yeah, as we go through here, now we're in the higher bounce sand wedge categories. You know, from your F grinds, and then starting with your 56 M's, moving your way through the 58s. And then as we get down to here, now we're in the lob wedge category, and we have L grinds here, M's, S, D's, K's. These are 62s, and then we have some exotics. So our plus models, which is M grinds with the ribbons removed. These are here in 58s and 60s.
Can I see one of those?
Absolutely, yeah. So if
so when you say the ribbon is removed.
Yeah, so I'll show you. I'll kind of show you what both of these look like, right?
Okay.
So here's your stock plus version. You can see how smooth the sole is.
Yeah.
And then here is where it sort of came from.
Oh, look at that.
And you can see the difference in the ribbons. And
so this is the part that we're talking about here. So they both have this flat section.
Correct.
But then this one just extends all the way through. This one, it's basically been ground out somehow. Like, how does that happen?
So really how you get to this point is you're assessing player issues, right? Mm-hmm. And when you get a player who comes in and he says, you know, I don't feel like my wedge is moving through the turf like I want it to. It feels sticky, it feels bouncy, it feels slow, it feels sluggish. You know, those are key words and phrases that kind of identify where we go next. And so if you're an M-grind player and you say, hey, I would love to feel this thing move faster through turf, removing the ribbon will increase the speed and allow players to feel like they can get through a ball faster. That'll help them produce the launch angle and the spin numbers that they want. You know, ultimately just kind of freeing them up around the greens to do what they need to do.
And so this is the removal of this ribbon, as you're calling it, this back seam. That's done by hand.
Correct. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So polish that down, and in essence, again, it's going to make it move faster. At the same time, you're also going to lose about 4 degrees of measured bounce angle. So it is a slightly lower bounce option than the M, but a faster moving option than the M. So really a nice complement to what the M grind is.
Gotcha.
So as we get through here, this drawer is probably the drawer that players and wedge fans love to be in the most.
Drawer.
This is the fun drawer, and this is really a place for us to explore and experiment and get a deeper understanding as to what's working out here, because this game is evolving. Players are evolving. What they want to see, what they want to feel and experience starts kind of in here. A lot of the times it starts with the higher lofted wedges because those are the ones that tend to produce the broadest feels.
So lob wedges is basically what we're talking about.
Correct.
That higher lofted sandwich, 58s and 60s.
58, 60, 62s. And so,
Okay.
so with that being said, this is kind of a fun space for us to explore. Right now, the number one wedge we make is the T-grind. This is by far the number one option that I produce out here for guys.
Why is that?
It is the perfect balance of what these players are wanting. They want versatility. That's really important to them, and they want trajectory management. Anytime you can get your golf ball to flight through this lower window, which is a sub-30 launch degree, you can produce a ton of spin and stopping power, and that allows you to just kind of really take advantage of controlling the Pro V1 or Pro V1X that you're playing, and that's where this thing shines. It just allows you to do that. When you ask anybody out here at the highest level of golf, what are you looking for in wedge play? They'll tell you, I want to launch it low, I want to flight it into my targets, I want max spin, but when I go greenside, I want the ability to create height with ease, whenever I'm in a difficult situation. And that's what's so beautiful about this model, is it sort of touches both of those things. You can flight it low when you want to, but when you're greenside and you open up the face, the trailing edge ribbon is a lot lower than some of our other models, and that allows you to...
this part right
Correct.
here.
This is the back, and so when you're opening up the face of the wedge, it will naturally begin to rise. And so if you polish this section down, it'll start to hug the turf. So this is fun, though, because this, even though this is our most popular model right now, you've got models like the 58L, which is a really great model, and then you have things like the A-grind, which is what Wyndham used to win the U.S. Open. So, these are fun little things that we can bring out, whether they're...
I have to ask about this one, the JT grind?
Yeah.
What is the JT grind?
So you're familiar with our K-grinds?
I am,
Okay.
yes.
So our K-grinds are wide sole, low bounce. Well, we have our standard one is 14 degrees, but we do offer a 6 degree.
Okay.
And that's for players who want what the K-grind gives you, which is ease out of a bunker, but at the same time, they want less bounce. So they kind of want the best of both worlds.
That wide sole, low bounce.
Correct. And so this is what the model looks like standard at 6 degrees, right?
Okay.
So you've got that there. Now, what's special about the JT style of sole is that if you're the type of player who plays this model and you open up the face, there's a pretty good chance that the wedge face is going to start to lift up off the turf.
That leading edge comes higher.
And that really messes with players.
Yep.
Sort of how they're going to attack that shot. They want that wedge to sit close so they feel like they can shallowly cut the legs off of that ball and throw it into a target. Yeah.
Yep.
And this sometimes will make players think they can't do it. So they will change technique and they will become steeper. And ultimately you get this heavy shot or a bladed shot, or maybe you pull it off, I don't know. But the likelihood of you hitting a poor shot is a lot higher when you don't feel comfortable. So this one here is unique because if you look at it, there are a couple of added elements here.
Oh, wow.
And you can see this is what we call pre-wear.
Yep.
This is basically allowing us to add a little bit more bounce on the front on the square face shots.
Yep.
And then you can see on the back this polished section here. And again, this is
So it's almost like there's 3 different areas on here. We've got this leading edge area here, which has been softened up, and there's a little bit of what almost looks like a crease. You would refer to it as a ribbon before, significantly more forward, but then another one in the back.
Yeah, and the reason why when you talk about how players use a wedge on square face shots, when they're outside of 65 yards, they're likely going to be square faced, and they're going to have a little bit of shaft lean as well. So now they're ultimately using more of the front of the wedge, and so you can put this pre-wear section on there to add a little bit of extra forgiveness as that wedge is getting in the turf. Now for standard square faced pitching, inside of, let's say 40, 30 yards or so, you're pretty neutral in how that wedge will contact the ground and take the ball towards your target. So that remains the same, but when you start to open up that face, it's really all about trying to get this thing to sit at the right heights so that you feel like you can do whatever you want. And that's where this sole is really unique, is you get kind of the best of both worlds in that sense. Players who typically love this wedge would be players who want a little bunker forgiveness, a little bit of height, but also want to put this wedge on the ground and see it hug the turf. This really will give you the best of both.
All of this stuff being ground in by hand, I assume?
Yes, these are all polished in by hand. And again, these are little things that we again learn from the best in the world. They tell us, hey, I love this wedge, but I have a couple problems.
Good stuff.
This drawer is super fun. And then every now and then you get some players who just they love what they love, and sometimes that means you gotta go in the past. And legacy parts. We have about 80% of players in this product here, but every now and then again, it's really important to help players figure out what the best fit is for them. And if that's something a little bit older and we still have it, we're glad to do it. So we've got some legacy products here. We got left-handed product. We've got some different models for tour players.
Yep.
This is super fun. And then some SureFit parts. And if you guys aren't familiar with SureFit, this is a really fun way for us to explore different grinds without having to waste a lot of time building up fresh products.
So this is essentially an adjustable hosel or a swappable hosel on a wedge.
For some guys, you know, when they're coming to us for the first time, or maybe they just don't know what they want to get, this is a great place to explore, because this will give you an understanding of what maybe is the right fit for you, or at least a place to start, right?
Okay.
And then we can maneuver it and polish it and change it from there, and then hopefully you find a sweet spot.
Yep.
We're fortunate that a lot of our models fit a lot of guys, so
yeah,
this is always a fun way for us to explore some different fitting options.
We neglected to go over one of the things that actually probably gets the most oohs and ahs from people, and that is going to be the grinding wheel.
Yes.
Explain to people who may not be aware, what is the purpose of this machine, and what does it do?
So it has several purposes. The main one for me is to make sure that players are getting the service and the parts that they need. This is also an exploration into what the future may be, right? We never know what golf wedges will look like, but this is a fun place for us to explore that space.
Sure.
And so for us, I'll give you some examples of places we may polish, right? In some way, shape, or form, we're going to probably put polishing on 60 to 70% of what leaves this fan in some capacity.
Okay.
So
6 or 7 out of the 10 wedges that leave are going to get touched by this machine.
In some way.
Okay.
Right? So it could be something with the profile. Profile meaning, what are you looking at when you set the club down? You know, you might see a player straighten their leading edges. Okay? So that would be one place you can do it. You may see a player square off their toes.
And this all comes from personal preference, maybe a club that they grew up with, or something that just the way that their eye sees this club, it needs to be tweaked or altered in some way.
In any way, shape, or form. They may say, hey, I was playing with so-and-so, and I kind of like the way his wedge looked. I go, great, go get it and let me see it.
Yeah.
And I can look at it, and I can take some measurements of it, and I can recreate it if I wanted to, just for shape. Right? So
you literally will put a Sharpie mark on the face or on the toe or wherever you need.
Yeah.
And then make that Sharpie mark go away on
Well, so the first thing we do is we would, if a player comes in and says, I want a square leading edge, I'll take a pen like this and I will mark it off. And I have a black board where you can set the club on the board, and they'll look at it and they'll tell you that's too square, it's not square enough. And so it gives them a visual idea of what this thing is going to look like when it's done. Yeah. And that's really what it's all about, is trying to figure out what that balance is. The last thing I want to do is make 10 of these things. I want to get it right the first time.
Right,
yeah, and I don't want to have to go through that. So these are a couple things that are pretty common profiles. Another thing that's very common is offset. And so you can actually physically change the way the offset looks by polishing in certain locations.
Explain to me, if you will, what does offset mean in a wedge?
So offset really can do one of two things. It can actually help you increase face closure, or in some cases, for some guys based on hand movements, it'll decrease. What you're going to see visually is you're going to see a transition from the hosel down to the leading edge. So offset, if you added offset to this club, the hosel would be ahead of the leading edge, meaning this is going to have to go backwards, right? You're going to see kind of that squiggly look.
Yep.
And I would say the majority of players today prefer to see a less offset option.
Okay.
You go back into the early eras of what Bob was doing with his guys, we were seeing a significant amount of offset in those parts.
So what years are we talking about when it
oh gosh,
most offset?
Probably in the 80s.
Okay.
80s and 90s. There is an art to it. We do have the best team. Honestly,
how did you get the guts to use it for the first time? Because this is a big honking machine, and if you'll flip it on so people can sort of just hear this really fast, it's loud.
It is
and
really
it's scary. And sparks fly.
It's really loud. So I'll pop it on here for you. So we have ventilation.
Yep.
So keep the air nice and clean.
Yep. Sorry about the audio, folks.
Yep.
This is the deal. We're not going to do anything. Obviously, we need safety glasses and a lot of stuff. Yeah, exactly. Right. The audio is now coming back. But that bell
Yes.
is going around. There's different grades, just like sandpaper you get at Home Depot.
Yep.
Different grades of grit that you go down here with, and you can. Some are sanding and removing material. Some are polishing, buffing down material. This is going to make it sort of. And this is why the raw finish is going to be so vital for tour pros, because explain why.
So if you took a chrome head like this,
Yep.
this chrome is protecting the 8620 steel that's underneath, right? If you remove that chrome will rust where it touches the wheels, right? So it just kind of looks funny to me. And again, this is my type A personality talking here. I want the thing to oxidize and to patina evenly across all parts, right? So if I take this head and I polish it on this wheel, wherever I touch, that spot's going to rust, the rest is going to stay chrome, and that makes me... And most players probably wouldn't care, but I care. It'd make me crazy, and so I steer people away. But so yeah, we're going to use this a bunch. And then as far as the sole goes, very common places to polish are going to be basically polishing in the heel. Some guys use the toe section a little bit, but we're going to focus a lot of attention on from here to in this location here.
Okay.
Because essentially that's where they're going to ground out as they open up the face.
Right. So when you hear the phrase or such like that you've got heel relief.
Correct.
That's what you're talking about.
Yep. And you can extend this as long as you want. When I'm polishing or I'm advising players on, the right places to polish, I'm not trying to reinvent the sole. I'm trying to clean up the little locations that make pitching difficult. I mean, when I first started, I watched Bob and his team working in their warehouse, in their factory. It was just initials back then, It was initials and hosel codes, and I saw that, and I was like, that looks like fun, and we did it. And we have these little pins on here. I'll show you your standard stamp kit, right? This is your standard stamp kit. These are in 1/8 size. People ask me all the time, what kind of stamps to use. But this is where it started.
Yep.
And we would just stamp, AS or
Sure.
DD, whatever it was. And then I started working with a couple players, and we were like, you know what? It'd be fun if you could kind of throw some more stuff on the back,
Sure.
And you saw players with initials everywhere. And then you saw, everything going from just white paint to all different colors.
Yeah.
And then you saw, movie quotes and song lyrics and Bible verses. And, before you knew it, it was just like, okay, we can do whatever we want now. We can have a great time showcasing all this stuff.
Yep.
And that's a great opportunity for you to dig deeper into the players you work with, their personalities, their personal lives, things that make them laugh, make them cry. And that's a super fun thing for us to get into, because we can showcase that and we can tell a great story.
You do stuff when players have babies.
Yes.
You oftentimes will make a wedge
And
like that.
I love doing that, because I think
It's a special gift.
I think that's something you have to celebrate. And like I have one down here. I'll pull it out. You have to celebrate these moments in life. And so here's a little guy right here. I'm just waiting for somebody to have a kid so I can stamp this thing. And the fun thing is that after we've stamped all the personal details on the back, we'll make it the exact same length that the baby was born at.
Oh, wow.
And I always tell...
So a 20-inch baby gets a 20-inch wedge.
I always tell players, I go, I want you to save this thing, because in 5, 6, 10 years, 15 years, when your kid graduates and you have this thing sitting in your office, you can look at it and go, this wedge is tiny. You go, that's how long your son was when he was born.
Paint-filled pink or paint-filled blue.
It's just a fun, thing. And I know most of the players, I always tell players too, I go, don't let them have this club, because they're going to smash you in the shins with it. They're going to damage all your furniture.
That's going to hurt.
And they send me pictures all the time. They go, hey, look what's going on with the club, and it's banging all over the house. So
fantastic.
yeah, these are fun.